Okay, good. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahavidyan Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Very good. Nice to see you all. And glad to have all the students joining us online. This is our next session of the advanced meditation. I think we missed last month. I think I wasn't feeling well on that particular day. There are so many ways to practice Nididhyasana. It's like prayer. How many ways are there to pray? As many people as there are that many ways to pray. So what I'm trying to do in these sessions is to give you ideas on how you can practice Nididhyasana. And one of my favorite ways of practicing Nididhyasana is actually a practice that's not done formally, sitting and meditating, but a kind of Nididhyasana you can do while you're at work, while you're cooking dinner, while you're on the phone, or while you're engaged in other activities. There's a parallel. Karma yoga is basically taking prayer with you throughout the day. And so I'd like to describe to you a particular practice of taking Atma Vichara and Nididhyasana with you throughout the day. And this is not something I've invented. It's something that's done regularly. But it is an advanced practice, which is why we're doing it here. To do Nididhyasana while you're at work doesn't mean to sit and meditate while you're at work. That's not the technique I'm about to share with you. But rather, it's an extension of Atma Vichara, self-inquiry, and a very important extension that you can do while you're engaged, while you should do while you're engaged in various activities. Let me just be more concrete and explain it to you very, very directly. There are 4 steps. I'll describe each one of the 4 steps. And the first step, the best time to do Nididhyasana, is when you get upset. Now that may seem counterproductive, because notice here in our sessions, what do we do? Before you do the actual Nididhyasana, you first do meditation. So meditation is kind of the opposite of being upset, but the technique we're going to do today is based on taking a moment during the day when you get upset about something. And let's just create a scenario and use that scenario throughout. Suppose you're at work and your boss yells at you for some reason or another. Has that ever happened to you? Of course not. Who would yell at you? It happens. All right. I remember once I got in big trouble. Anyway, we won't go into those details. So, the first step is to choose a trigger. And boss yelling at you would be a good trigger, but it could be anything. And specifically, the trigger for doing this technique should be when your boss shouts at you and you get hurt. Or how about when you get angry and shout at somebody else? Or whatever it is. But when there is Let's try to be more specific. An uncontrolled emotional reaction. That's when you should do it. When there is an uncontrolled emotional reaction. By the way, there are certain physical indicators that if you want to observe for a trigger, one trigger would be if your voice is raised. Why should it be raised? Even at home, even with children, why should your voice be raised? If your voice is raised, something's going on. That's a good trigger. Another trigger, this was a practice I did until I didn't need to do it anymore. And that is, whenever I felt hurt, when I felt hurt, I would always feel, and you may or may not feel this, I would feel a sensation right here, exactly, underneath that sternum, I guess it's called. And I would feel that kind of tension or a sinking feeling or what. You may have some other feeling, I don't know. But I suspect it's not only me who feels that. So my practice then was whenever I felt that tension, that sinking feeling in my chest, that was a trigger I would pay attention to. So when I had that trigger, it's time to do Nididhyasana. Now, so the first of the 4 steps is have a trigger. And a trigger that tells you that an uncontrolled emotional reaction has taken place. Step 1, trigger. Step 2 is an emotional analysis of what's going on. Or in more common language, tune in to your emotions. People like to use that language. Fine. Tune into your emotions, which means really understand deeply what you're feeling and why. And sometimes it's more complicated than you think. Before we get into the complication, in the middle of an argument is not a good time to do this practice. So if you're shouting at someone or if somebody's shouting at you, when the argument is over, immediately, and the sooner the better, as soon as the argument or whatever it is, a tense situation, as soon as it's over. So during the argument or whatever, you probably notice the trigger going off, sort of like an alarm clock. Zzzt, oh. But you're still in the middle of the situation, so you say, okay, as soon as I'm done, then I'm going to deal with this. That's step 1. Step 2 now is leave the situation behind, just go to some kind of quiet place, sit down, and begin this emotional analysis, emotional inquiry, tuning into your emotions. Suppose you feel hurt. Boss has yelled at you, you feel hurt. Okay. Why do you feel hurt? Just to feel I'm hurt doesn't solve anything. Why do I feel hurt? And you say, because my boss is such a blank, blank, blank. These words come in our minds, right? So, how does that, is that really tuning into your emotions? Why are you blaming your boss? Who's the one who feels hurt? Not your boss. You're feeling hurt. So to focus on your boss, why did he say that? Why did he do that? Didn't he understand this and that and the other thing? That's not emotional analysis. That's self-defense. You're defending yourself. Maybe you couldn't defend yourself to the boss's face, so after the fact, you're trying to make excuses for yourself and blame the boss. All of that is counterproductive. So notice already, this technique presumes a pretty great degree of emotional maturity. Not everyone can do what we're describing. Again, this is an advanced meditation class, and it assumes also, I suppose, some fairly some degree of emotional maturity. Okay, so instead of blaming your boss, you ask yourself very honestly, why do I feel hurt? And there are kind of two ways, two strains, two paths that inquiry might follow. Suppose you didn't do anything wrong. Absolutely, whatever your boss was, it's 100% clear that your boss made a mistake in his or her assessment of you in a situation. So knowing your boss made a mistake, then why are you hurt? People make mistakes all the time, right? We all make mistakes. Your boss made a mistake. You understand your boss made a mistake. Right now, I'm giving you the pattern. I'm modeling the kind of self-inquiry. If my boss made the mistake, why am I hurt? I've made mistakes. I've shouted at people because I've made a mistaken assessment. So if he's in the wrong, then, and I know I'm okay, I know I'm in the right, then why am I hurt? Then next step. Oh, he seems to doubt my capabilities. He seems to think I'm not a good employee, I'm not a good worker, I'm not intelligent, I'm not good enough. This is what it comes down to. If my boss is yelling at me unfairly, he must think I'm not good enough. Am I good enough? Now, again, you might, if the boss is really in the wrong, you say, but I am good enough. So if I'm good enough, then why do I feel hurt? That's interesting. This is a very important kind of analysis that we do. And it's all so far we're not talking any Vedanta. This is all emotional analysis. So you take it down the other layer and said, well, he's doubting my being good enough. That doubt hurts me. He doesn't trust me. He doesn't believe in me. He doesn't like me. all these emotional things come out. When you go deep enough into it, you discover all of this stuff. It's not just children who have these feelings. Grown adults have that feeling, oh, he doesn't like me. If you feel that, it happens. It's normal. And as I said, not just the children. So then, why do I want to be liked? Now we're starting to get towards Vedanta at this point. And then you start to realize that what's happened is he is doubting something about or disliking something about your personality. Let's stay with that. He doesn't like me. Why? There's some trait I must have that he doesn't like. What trait? Another layer down. But at some point, we have to start flipping from this emotional analysis to a Vedantic analysis. I think you get the idea that emotional analysis is like going down a rabbit hole. It just keeps going and going, but it's important. Notice we started with a boss yelling at you and feeling hurt, and now you've drilled down, so to speak, in a situation to the extent that you get it. There's something about me that my boss doesn't like. There's something wrong with me. All of this is emotional, all of this is psychological. Now, let's make the switch from emotion to Vedanta. So step 1 was trigger. Step 2 was the emotional analysis we've just completed. Now step 3. And we'll start with that. There's something wrong with me. Wait a minute. Nothing wrong with Satchidananda Atma. So I know through these teachings, again, advanced technique presumes a lot of Vedantic understanding prior to this practice. So if my true nature is such, if I am Satchidananda, if I'm just pure consciousness, there's nothing wrong with me. But then my boss is not upset with pure consciousness. My boss is upset with me as an individual, in particular with my personality. There's something about my personality that pushes my boss's buttons, suppose, whatever it is. And again, when you do this, it all has to be your lived experience. I'm just giving you a common example. So now you're beginning to discern between you and personality. And if these teachings of Vedanta have gone in deeply enough, you know that personality is something you possess. It's external to you. It's a little bit like clothing. You are covered, so to speak, by your personality. By the way, if you remember studying the Pancha Kosha, we're talking about Manomaya Kosha. That's personality. So this is an as-though covering to Atma. So there's something about my Manomaya Kosha that my boss doesn't like. Well, wait a minute. So he doesn't like it. What is it to me? Consciousness. Suppose someone doesn't, and allow me just to go off in a different direction to give an example. Suppose somebody doesn't like your clothing. You like it. Then it's not you. If you get it, that clothing is just cloth, maybe there's a design on the fabric. And someone says, what a weird design. Who would say that? I don't know. But the point I'm making, a trivial observation about something that's not even you. Why would you worry about it? If somebody doesn't, some people like it, some people don't like it. How about personalities? Same thing. Some people like it, some people don't like it. Do you think everyone in the world is going to like your particular personality? Don't you think there'd be at least a few people out there who don't? Of course. So, is there anyone that everyone loves? No, such a person does not exist. If you might be thinking, wait a minute, what about Dalai Lama? Everyone loves him. Do you know there's a big controversy? And there's a whole group of Tibetan Buddhists who are against the Dalai Lama. They go out, when he gives a public lecture, they stand outside and protest. So even everyone doesn't like do you think the Dalai Lama feels, oh, they don't love me? Yeah, that's this is the point we're coming to. So they don't like something about your personality, but you are not that personality. The Dalai Lama is not going to feel hurt because there are Tibetan Buddhists protesting his public program. In the same way, if these teachings of Vedanta have really gone in for you, and you understand that some people can take exception with certain traits of your personality, and it's perfectly okay because some people will like it, some people won't like it. That's nature. And then last step, as we're still in step 3, last step is this. Okay, so he doesn't like some trait about my personality, and I know that I am independent of that personality, then why am I hurt? Because there is lingering identification with that personality. In other words, that I am pure consciousness hasn't sunk in 100%. I still feel intimately associated with that aspect of my personality. Dehatma buddhi, lingering identification, which is exactly what Nididhyasana is meant to address. Okay, so you recognize, that's why I felt hurt. I felt hurt because of this lingering identification with my personality. And let me say here that whatever is the situation, could be a zillion different situations, you getting angry, the other person getting angry, you getting hurt, whatever it is, but you're always going to end up at the same place. Lingering identification with your personality, with your mind, with your body, whatever. It's all, that's what Nididhyasana is for, right? The purpose of Nididhyasana is to overcome this lingering identification. And we've had that discussion in prior sessions. We won't go further now. So before we move on to step 4, let's review. Step 1, trigger some uncontrolled emotional reaction. Step 2 is of thorough emotional analysis. Step 3 is a Vedantic analysis. We're leading you to recognize that the emotional reaction was the result of lingering identification with your body, with your mind, with your emotions, with your role as a engineer or doctor or whatever is your employment, whatever it is. So whatever is the situation, there's a trigger, emotional analysis, Vedantic analysis, leading you to recognize the lingering presence of some kind of identification. Now, step 4. Step 4 is having recognized the lingering identification. Step 4 is then to, and the best term I can think of is to rest in yourself. To rest in yourself means to detach from whatever it is you are identified with and be who you are. To be who you are is to be pure consciousness. Of course, you already are pure consciousness, so you need to come home, so to speak, and rest in your true self. And formal meditation is the best way to do that. So step 4 is meditate. And meditate specifically to come home, to rest in your true self, to appreciate that you are Satchidananda Atma and everything else is external to you. Your boss is external to you. your clothes, your body, your personality, everything about your mind and intellect, all of that is the outer trappings of being a human being, but your essence is Satchidananda Atma, pure consciousness. That's step 4. So, again, the 4 steps: trigger, leading to emotional analysis, leading to Vedantic analysis, and final recognizing the lingering identification, and finally, the 4th step, come home. Rest in yourself, practice meditation. Now, this 4th step, it might not be convenient to do it with steps 1, 2, and 3. Steps 1, 2, and 3, the best time to do it is as soon as possible. Whenever you got triggered, then if you can do it immediately after, that's ideal. If you can do it several hours later, that's fine. If you do it in the evening, that's fine. But the sooner you do it, the more effective it will be, because it's all fresh in your mind, so to speak. And the 4th step, meditation, it may or may not be convenient to do, again, as soon as it's convenient. But these are the 4 steps. By the way, these 4 steps are not the only way to do this. I'm just giving you an example of a common practice, but there's, I think, a lot of wisdom in these 4 steps, and it was, I tell you honestly, it was very formative for me. This was my practice for a long, long time, basically, until you don't need to do it. The day comes when you don't need to do it anymore. Why don't you need to do it anymore? You don't get triggered. If you don't get triggered, you don't need to do it. You know, it's like any kind of practice, you need to do it when you need to do it. When the need goes, like you're taking medicine. How long do you take the medicine? Until the problem goes away. If you're going on a diet and doing exercise, how long to do exercise is different. You're going on a diet, how long to do the diet? Because we're supposed to exercise all the time, right? Okay. You're going on a diet, how long should you stay on a diet? Until your weight is what you want. You know, so practices don't go on forever. Even Nididhyasana, when it has fulfilled its purpose, you're done. When are you done? When you don't feel triggered, meaning when these uncontrolled emotional reactions fade away. All right, there's much more we could talk about at this point, but we want to include meditation. So the meditation we'll do this evening would be a very good example of coming home. Coming home means resting in yourself. Resting in yourself means what? To have 100% of your attention withdrawn from everything else, and to appreciate I am pure consciousness, Satchidananda Atma. Just to have that sense. Here I am, and I am that. Soham, I am that. Okay, and anything more needs to be said? I don't think so. So hold on to these 4 steps and try it. Again, next time you get triggered, what were those 4 steps, Swamiji? You might want to write them down just so you don't forget, because it's a little bit more involved of a practice. Okay, I think that is enough. Why don't we get ready for our meditation portion, which is to model for you that practice of coming home. Formal meditation. Okay. You can sit with your backs erect, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Take a moment to get settled down. Always helpful to begin with a sankalpa, in which we acknowledge the fact that we have lots of unresolved problems and issues in our lives. These problems and issues can distract us as we try to meditate. So right now, we acknowledge the unresolved issues in our lives, and we give ourselves permission to set all that aside for the next 20 minutes. For the next 20 minutes, we can give ourselves exclusively to this meditation. Next, a brief exercise to concentrate the attention and relax our bodies. Start by turning your attention to your feet. Become aware of the sense of pressure as your feet press down upon the floor. Notice sensations, pressure, touch of your clothing, warmth, coolness, and notice if there's any tension in the muscles of your feet, and let go of that tension. Then your ankles in the same way. And since this is an advanced practice and you've already been through this introductory technique many times, I won't talk you through each part. I'll just lead you through each part. So turn your attention towards your ankles. Perform the practice on your ankles and calves. Now, your knees and thighs. And the trunk of your body. Your lower back and stomach. Your chest and upper back. Your shoulders, upper arms, elbows, forearms, hands, fingers, fingertips, your neck, head, face, throughout your body. Tonight we'll use prana vikshana to prepare us for the main practice. Prana vikshana is to simply observe your breathing, not to control it in any way. But in order for this prana vikshana to prepare you, I request you to give this prana vikshana your complete attention. Be very diligent, be very committed to this practice. This practice requires effort. Meditation is not simply relaxation. This particular practice requires effort and attention. Begin by turning your attention to your breath, in particular to trace the passage of air as it enters your nostrils, as it passes down your windpipe, and as it enters your lungs, causing your chest to rise and expand. Then again, trace the passage of air as it leaves your lungs, travels up your windpipe, leaving through your nostrils and returning to the room. As you inhale, trace the passage of air. into the nostrils, down the windpipe, filling your lungs. As you exhale, trace the passage of air, leaving your lungs, up through your windpipe, leaving through your nostrils. Breathe at your own pace. Breathe naturally, easily, tracing the passage of air. To increase the amount of attention focused on your breathing, it's helpful to associate it with mental counting. So as you inhale, count mentally 1, 2, 3. As you trace the passage of air, as you exhale, count mentally 4, 5, 6. As you trace the passage of air. Inhaling 1, 2, 3. Tracing the passage of air. Exhaling 4, 5, 6. Tracing the passage of air. Inhaling 1, 2, 3. Exhaling 4, 5, 6. Tracing the air with each breath. Inhaling 1, 2, 3. Exhaling 4, 5, 6. Tracing the passage of air with each breath. Give this practice your full attention. Be diligent. Inhaling exhaling 4, 5, 6. For 1 more minute, continue this practice with great attention, diligence, effort. The purpose of this practice so far is to make your attention very strongly concentrated. So far, your attention is concentrated on your breath. In the last part of our meditation, the Nididhyasana portion, concentrate instead on the sound of Om as I chant. You listen silently, concentrating your attention with diligence, with effort, on the sound of Om. Then, in the gaps of silence, in between repetitions of Om, you have an opportunity in those moments of silence to rest in yourself. To rest in yourself means to simply be who you are, a conscious being, pure consciousness, Satchidananda. Concentrate on the sound of Om, and in moments of silence, rest in yourself. deep.